viewers, welcome to this lecture on environmental sociology, and the topic of the day is Eco-Friendly Gangasagar Mela, a case study. The different objectives of today's lecture are to know about the mythological history of Gangasagar, to have a brief idea of the Gangasagar island, to know about the Gangasagar Mela, and of course, to know about its transformation to eco-friendly green Gangasagar Mela. To start with, I shall be narrating the mythological history after this Gangasagar Mela or Gangasagar place. It is a very sacred place because this is the place where the sacred Ganga meets the sea. Actually, it was Lord Vishnu who requested the famous sage Kardama to take into worldly life, and accordingly he was born in the earth and got married to Devahuti. But while taking birth, he requested Vishnu that he has also to come to the earth in the form of his son. So accordingly, Vishnu descended to earth in the form of Kopila, who was the son of Kardama and Devahuti. And he became also the famous sage Maharishi Kopila. And he had his ashram in this Gangasagar island. And this is the ashram where still people go to visit. But what happened was, there was a king of that place, King Sagar. And King Sagar was doing Ashwamedha Yajna, and the horse was actually stolen by Indra. He was keeping a close vigil and he stole the horse and actually put it close to the particular ashrama of Maharishi Kopila. So the King Sagar and his 60,000 son was looking after where this horse has gone, and accordingly they found out that this horse was near the ashrama of Maharishi Kopila. So they were blaming Maharishi Kopila for stealing the horse, and accordingly Maharishi Kopila got very angry, and in his rage actually the 60,000 son of King Sagar was converted to ashes. They were burnt to ashes. So that was the famous story behind Gangasagar. But what happened was, a later descendant of King Sagar, namely Bhogirath, was worshipping Lord Shiva, because it was Ganga which is actually embracing the yata of Lord Shiva has to descend. And accordingly, Lord Shiva was happy with his taba and released Ganga. And the Ganga came down to earth on the 15th of January of the Gregorian calendar, which coincides with the observance of Makara Sankranti. And in this occasion, Surya, the sun god, enters the Makara constellation. So it is actually the Uttarayana of Hindu calendar. It's a very auspicious day. And the Ganga descended and met the ocean at the sea, and at that point the 60,000 sons of King Sagar got the moksha on this Makara Sankranti day. So this is a very important auspicious day in the life of all Hindus, and that's why they visit this place as a very sacred place. In addition to that, there is a Hindu belief that every soul has to cross the river Boitarani by holding the tail of cattle. And as per this religious belief, the worldly ties are only over when you cross the river Boitarani, and that is only possible with the tail of the cattle. And that is also happening in this particular place with the dip of this Gangasagar. So accordingly, Makara Sankranti is to get closer to God, to get the ultimate benefit from God, and that is the reason why millions of Hindus from all over the world take a dip on this Makara Sankranti day, that is on 14th and 15th of January every year. And it is called the Gangasagar Mela. Now let us talk about this Gangasagar Island. The Gangasagar Island is located extreme south of Kolkata, where the Ganges or the Bhagirathi Hooghly meets the Bay of Bengal. And this island is actually an active delta, and this delta is more or less close to this particular Namkhana port and also the Kakdip of the mainland. It is located 21.72 degree north and 88.10 degree east longitude. This particular satellite picture of Gangasagar Island shows that there are several villages, and some of them are Kompanirchor or Kailapara or Rudranagar, and also Chemaguri, Shivpur, and of course the Gangasagar. And this Gangasagar is the place where actually people that take the dip at the confluence of Ganga and the Bay of Bengal. Now, the route from Kolkata can be via road, rail, or even through river channel. Primarily, people take buses, and this particular road is going straight to Gangasagar via Julpia, Kulpi, Nischintapur, and then getting into this particular island by crossing the ferry at the point of Kakdip, or lot number 8 of Kakdip, which is in the mainland. Apart from that, there is also a train which is going to Namkhana from Shialda. This also takes you to Kakdip, which is considered to be the gateway of Gangasagar. Of course, the pressure of crowd is so much, people also take on vessels and they go down via Diamond Harbour and directly into Gangasagar Island. But the problem of this particular season is that because of heavy fog, sometimes the visibility is very low. So, this Gangasagar Mela is happening for centuries, and every year the footfall of the pilgrims are increasing. In fact, 10 years before, where the number of devotees were only 1 to 2 million, it was 5 million this year, that is 2023. But during COVID, that is during the period of 2022, the number definitely got reduced, and there was severe restriction, and even there was an e-portal where people were visiting the e-portal for gaining the visit to Gangasagar. This Mela, though we say the dip is on 14th and 15th of January, but it continues between 8th and 15th of January, and sometimes the devotees visit this place till end of February. Now let us have a particular quiz. How many sons of King Sagar were killed by the curse of Maharishi Kopila? Option A, 15,000. Option B, 25,000. Option C, 60,000. And option D, 90,000. And the correct answer is C, that is 60,000. As because large number of people are visiting this place in a very short duration, naturally, there is every possibility that the place gets dirty and polluted. And so this pollution has been studied by several workers. In a study carried out by Jadavpur University, they have shown that all the parameters of this Gangasagar water is increasing because of this organic pollution. And they actually studied it in Sagar Canal, Dablat Khal, Dablat Beach, Jehubanu Khal, and Jehuban Beach. What they found out was, before and after, the pollution was increasing, and this was in the terms of electrical conductivity, total soluble solids, hardness, dissolved oxygen, chemical oxygen demand, and also the biological oxygen demand. Most importantly, the concentration of fecal coliform, which is actually E. coli bacteria, was increasing, and the count has gone up from 220 to more than 7,300 at certain points. And in another point, that is the Jehuban Khal, the count has gone up to nearly 15,000 from mere 2,500. So this indicates that the water is heavily getting polluted, not only that, it can cause severe dysentery and other infection in common people. And we can see in this picture that this organic pollution is mainly coming from the fecal matter and also the different religious items that is used by the devotees. And they are all deposited in the water bodies, as a result of which the biochemical oxygen demand or the biological oxygen demand increases, and this will cause pollution and death of the fishes. So in 2016, under the leadership of the District Magistrate of South 24 Parganas, they focus on taking up this social movement by which the elimination of this open defecation in the Mela ground will be stopped, and this was done mainly to reduce organic pollution. So they took several steps, and some of these steps included strict restriction on open defecation and littering in that particular Mela premises. And they also banned plastic, and this banning was plastic below 40 micron. They constructed more than 10,000 toilets and erected 7,000 large dustbins in the Mela ground. There were 3,000 cleaning staff and 2,000 volunteers manning this. Apart from that, they were supported by UNICEF for branding, communication and training the volunteers who were guiding the pilgrims to the toilets. And there were also different partner NGOs. There were actually actively involved with 2,000 plus volunteers. Moreover, the Panchayat of the Sagar block, they had the key role to keep the Mela clean and green. And this was done by the deployment of 3,000 plus Nirmal Bandhu who were responsible for keeping the toilets clean and keeping the dustbins clean. So this implementation is not that easy. The implementation was carried out with the help of India Sanitation Coalition Bloc. Somehow, this particular open defecation, when it was restricted or stopped, pollution was reduced. And the key person behind this movement was Dr. P.B. Salim, the IAS person. And this particular UNICEF and the Global Interfaith WASH, that is Sustainable Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, was helping in keeping the Mela ground green. And at the NGO level also, there was huge training given to the stakeholders so that this Mela prangan or the Mela ground is kept clean. Apart from that, the Panchayati Raj members, the government officials and NGO representatives were working round the clock. There were some challenges, and these challenges actually were standing in between keeping this Mela green. What were they? You see, people, they plan at the last moment, so reaching the Mela ground itself is a challenge, a huge pressure of vehicles or vehicular traffic in the lot number 8 or Kakdip. And the parking is a major problem. And the disembarkation point was kept 5 kilometers away so that the parking can be done safely there. And the creek, I told you, this is during the winter season, so lot of fog. So crossing the creek is also a problem, that is Murigonga. And there were also the problem of low tide between 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., which prevented any waterborne traffic. So naturally, people were restricted at a particular time of the day to cross the creek, and that even increased the pressure on the Mela prangan. Another challenge, as I have already told, was to stop people from defecating openly. And because they came from different states, different countries, their language is different, their culture is different, and their diverse background, to reach out to them, to train them, to keep the Mela ground clean is a big challenge. And naturally, in order to meet the challenge, the government took some innovation. So innovative strategies were there. And what were they? Universal coverage of toilets and there were rosters given to the cleaners because they had their duty and operated round the clock. There were 10,000 plus permanent and semi-permanent toilets that were built, and 2,000 plus toilets were actually installed on the transit points. So it is not only the Mela ground, but all over the place, all over the route going to Gangasagar had these toilets. It was also there in the buffer zone. And the availability of water was ensured for 24 hours. And these toilets were colored yellow, and there was a flag marker so that people could easily see, yes, there is the toilet and we must go there. And there were also road signs to take you to the toilet. Apart from that, hotels and dharmashalas were trained specially to make the toilets available to these particular devotees or pilgrims, and approximately they were targeting 1:20 human toilet ratio. There were also large number of yellow colored dustbins erected, mainly to take the solid waste and also segregate the waste. Additionally, the cleaning staff, as they were deployed, it was ensured that there was not too much pressure on the cleaning staff. So one staff was looking after 10 toilets. Apart from that, there were the special Najoddari committee having 15,000 volunteers from NCC and other renowned NGOs. The India Sanitation Coalition was responsible to ensure best practice, including stopping people from open defecation. Another important challenge was to stop plastic. Plastic and thermocol cups were completely banned, and only paper cups were allowed. Even selling of such plastic items were also stopped. In order to train people, there were billboards, leaflets, hoardings. Apart from that, to keep a close vigil, there were 140 CCTV all over the Mela ground to look after this pilgrim. So here are certain pictures where we can see there was campaign against the use of plastic. But even then, people did use plastic. So naturally, these plastics were collected in that Gangasagar Mela after the Mela is over by the Nirmal Bandhu volunteers or the volunteers from NGO. Another important challenge was after COVID, naturally, the Mela ground has to be disinfected. And this disinfection was done very seriously, at least 6 to 7 times a day. And this is a very important exercise. What is that? The waste, after it was dumped on a particular place, it was segregated and the plastics were taken out from the biological degradable waste. So it was definitely a success of transforming Gangasagar Mela from a normal polluting one to clean and green one. And these key elements to success included strong political will and leadership, of course, under the proactive leadership of Dr. Salim, IAS. And there were also this particular ODF status given to the Mela, and that is open defecation free status. And that is actually having a lingering effect, so the Mela ground remained clean. Different departments were set with clear roles and responsibilities. And this included construction, cleaning, maintenance, and monitoring of the toilets. The success of the clean and green Mela was framed on the convergence of all the stakeholders, and that included the Panchayat of Sagar Island, the NGOs operating in that place, and of course, the district administration and police of South 24 Parganas. All three pooled resources and together erected 180 pilgrim shed, 12,000 permanent and semi-permanent toilets, and the number increases every year because the pressure of pilgrims increase every year on the Mela ground and on the transit points. There were special parking arrangements made near Kagdip near the lot number 8 so that people could park their vehicle and get into the Gangasagar. But the journey didn't stop in 2016. It continued for the next 4 years, and there were more stringent measures, more planning and implementation to keep the Mela ground clean, and that was a challenge for the West Bengal government. But in 21 and 22, this was the COVID period, there was restricted entry and the crowd was not allowed to go in freely. So the government organized online virtual tour of the Mela. But in 2023 again, the Mela had a footfall of nearly 5 million pilgrims. And that was managed efficiency with proper planning and implementation, and of course, deployment of the volunteers all around. Very importantly, better communication, parking and hygienic tents were provided, and of course, pollution-free water or groundwater definitely ensured less diseases, bacterial outbreak or E. coli infection in the common people there. So, I will be considering another quiz. In which year did the Green Gangasagar Mela start? Option A, 2010. Option B, 2012. Option C, 2014. Option D, 2016. And the correct option is D, that is 2016. So, in this particular lecture, I have discussed the Hindu mythological importance of Gangasagar Mela, why it is so sacred, why it is so auspicious. I discussed about the Makara Sankranti day, why people actually go for Gangasagar dip on that particular day. Apart from that, I also discussed about the location and the different route taking common people to Gangasagar. And I also discussed the different pollution problems that actually people were suffering from in the Gangasagar prior to 2016. And then I discussed about the different steps taken to control pollution, to control open defecation, and of course deployment of volunteers and proper implementation and planning resulted in clean and green Gangasagar Mela. And definitely I concluded with the success and the future pathway of this clean and green Gangasagar Mela. Thank you.